Why does God allow hardship? Why do good people suffer? The answer is not always easy. But one thing we learn from the Bible is this. Sometimes God permits hardship, not to destroy us, but to prepare us for a greater purpose, to build strength and to build patience. No story teaches this better than the story of Joseph. Joseph was the beloved son of Jacob. His father loved him dearly and gave him a beautiful coat of many colors, a gift unlike any of his brothers received. But what should have been a symbol of love became a reason for jealousy. Every time they saw his colorful coat, their hatred grew stronger. One day Joseph shared a dream. He said, "I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down before me." His brothers became furious. "Do you really think you'll rule over us?" they whispered among themselves. From that day on, they hated him even more. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers. Far away, they saw Joseph walking toward them. "There comes the dreamer," they said. "Let's kill him." Their hearts had become hard with jealousy. But instead of killing him, they grabbed him, tore off his colorful coat, and threw him into a pit. Joseph cried out for help, but no one came. As he sat alone in the darkness, he had no idea that God was still with him. Soon a caravan of slave traders passed by. One brother had an idea. "Why kill him? Let's sell him instead." For 20 pieces of silver, they sold their brother. Joseph was carried away in chains toward Egypt. His family thought they would never see him again. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to a man named Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. However, even as a slave, Joseph chose to honor God. Everything he did prospered because God was with him. Potiphar trusted Joseph with everything in his house, but another trial was waiting. One day, when no one else was home, Potiphar's wife tempted Joseph. "Come and sleep with me," she said. Joseph refused. "How could I sin against God?" he answered. He ran from the house, leaving part of his garment behind. Filled with anger, she lied. She told her husband that Joseph had tried to force himself on her. Potiphar became furious. Joseph was thrown into prison. Once again, he had done the right thing. Yet he suffered for it. For years, Joseph waited behind prison walls, but even in prison, God was still with him. Then one night, Pharaoh had 2 troubling dreams. None of his wise men could explain them. Someone remembered a prisoner named Joseph who could interpret dreams. Pharaoh immediately sent his guards. Joseph washed himself, changed his clothes, and was brought before the king. Standing before Pharaoh, Joseph humbly said, "It is not I, but God who will give the answer." God revealed that 7 years of great harvest would be followed by 7 years of terrible famine. Joseph advised Pharaoh to store food during the years of plenty. Pharaoh recognized God's wisdom in Joseph. He removed his own signet ring and placed it on Joseph's hand. "You shall be second only to me," Pharaoh declared. In one moment, the prisoner became the ruler. The forgotten man became the one God chose to save a nation. Years later, the famine spread across many lands. Joseph's 10 older brothers traveled to Egypt to buy food. When they stood before Egypt's ruler, they bowed to the ground. They did not recognize him. But Joseph recognized them. The dream God had given him had finally come true. After testing their hearts, Joseph could no longer hide his identity. With tears in his eyes, he said, "I am Joseph, your brother. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to save many people alive." Joseph forgave them. He sent horses, chariots, and wagons to bring his father Jacob to Egypt. Soon Jacob, Joseph's 11 brothers, and the rest of their family came to Egypt to live safely during the famine. Joseph's pain had become God's plan. His prison had become his pathway. His suffering had become someone else's salvation. So, why does God allow hardship? Sometimes God is preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. Sometimes the pit is preparing you for the palace. Sometimes the prison is preparing you for your purpose. If Joseph had never been betrayed, he would never have gone to Egypt. If he had never become a slave, he would never have served in Potiphar's house and be falsely accused. He would never have entered the prison if he had never gone to prison. He would never have stood before Pharaoh. And if he had never stood before Pharaoh, he could never have saved his family. So when life becomes difficult, don't lose hope. God is still working.